All right, guys, so to do this, you're gonna need a couple things, right? Highly recommend getting a workhorse or an old pallet. If you have it, you're gonna need a plank. You're also gonna need a sander and some sandpaper. So I'd start off with a pack like this. You can basically just cut it to size with your sander. This is an 80, 120, and a 220. Ideally, you wanna be 80, 120, maybe up to 160, but this is what I got, so this is what I'm gonna work with. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, guys, so I'm just gonna start off with saying that woodworking is not my primary hobby. I just picked this up. There's plenty of other YouTube tutorials in which you can get things 100% perfect. This is basically just designed to give you guys the general idea of things, right? So you want to, and also at the same time, it's already been kiln dried. So if it hasn't been kiln dried, you're probably gonna wanna kill the bugs that are in there. But since it has been kiln dried, it's lighter. It has the bugs dead inside, I guess. So now all you have to do is go ahead and start sanding. So I have on there the 80 grit sandpaper, so we're gonna go ahead and get to work. So what the idea here is you're not trying to make it 100% perfect. Obviously this has already been planed before, as you can see. So it's already been planed before, as you can see by the score marks on it. So basically what that does is it tries to get it absolutely flat, right? So now what you're doing is you're doing the sandpaper to take off the rough spots on there in general. So now it's still pretty rough over here. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock off the rough edges, not get it 100% perfect. Obviously, if you want it 100% perfect and, you know, woodworking masterpiece, this probably isn't the way to do it. So let's go ahead and finish this off with a little more sanding. We're gonna bump up to even more finer grits after this one, and then we'll go ahead and show you guys how to burn this thing. Well, all right, guys, so I went ahead and got everything sanded down. Obviously, if this was a 100% woodworking video, these you know, rotted out parts right here, and also this knot, you know, would be taken care of with some filler or maybe some epoxy. But this isn't supposed to be something that's super crazy to the nines on woodworking. I just wanted to go ahead and get a rough, you know, video going for you guys. But now that all the rough edges have been taken off of this thing, right? So I was going with the grain whenever I was doing the sanding. So next thing we're gonna do is we're just, instead of doing like a stain in which you would go from, you know, super crazy with the sander into something that's very, very fine and thin, then you would go ahead and stain this and put some poly on it, or maybe even you know, some other type of sealant. What I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be burning this. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab the MAP torch. So let's just go ahead and show you that real quick. So I got this MAP torch, and I'm gonna go ahead and start burning this thing. And then we're gonna go ahead and show you guys the finished product. Obviously, let's just show you real quick. So whenever you burn wood, you get this cool little char on it, right? So that was another reason why I wanted to go with the wood on the bottom, right? So this is, you know, obviously a cannibalized pallet, so I don't need this. But we're gonna go ahead and start burning this thing, and it's gonna more or less weatherproof it. Gives it that nice little bit of alligator skin and char on there, and then it gives it a really cool look. So you can still stain it afterwards. It's called shou-sugi-ban. I'm not going to be staining it, but you know, just more or less putting this as a center speaker stand for my home theater. So go ahead and stick around, guys. I'll go ahead and show you guys as I finish it up. All right, guys, so I forgot to give credit where credit's due. I owe the wood to a gentleman out in Pearland, Texas, out here in Houston. He is known as the Kilted Woodworker. I bought this wood slab from him. It's red oak. It's kiln dried, so it's great stuff, and it's also flat planed. So that helps out, you know, just start off your woodworking journey, however you're going to do it. So I didn't necessarily go super depth into this wood making type of venture, but I mean, I highly recommend you guys check out local businesses. If you don't shop local businesses, they're just going to go away. If you can always try to shop local, it always helps out. So, well, all right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and leave Kilted Woodworker's information down below. So if you want to go ahead and reach out to him for your wood needs, don't hesitate to do that as well. This isn't my last video that I'm going to be doing with wood. I'm also planning on doing some other things as well, but that's coming a little bit later. So let's go ahead and jump back in this video, and then we'll see how it turns out. All right, guys, I guess there's nothing left to it but to do it. All right. So hindsight, it looks like you want to go ahead and work backwards. So whenever you're doing this, you're not necessarily causing any risk of burning yourself. I mean, there's still a risk, but just trust the process. All right, guys, so that's basically the process. I'm gonna go ahead and set up a quick time lapse, but as you can see right here, you kind of want to go steady and even across the entire board, because right now I'm starting off with the side that you're not necessarily gonna see. This is gonna be the bottom of the center speaker stand. So now, I'd probably recommend starting off with that just so that you guys get used to the way the torch reacts with the wood. And also, you know, if you haven't done this before, it helps you get your technique in there pretty good. So again, like I was talking about, this isn't necessarily a perfectly catered towards woodworking video. As you can see right here, we still, since this stuff wasn't knocked off in the first place, it wasn't treated with epoxy. It's very, very small in its surface area, so it's having a harder time to go out necessarily due to the fire. So this stuff is nice and weather treated. We're gonna go ahead and do a wire brush over the top of it, but I'm gonna see if I can quench this fire real quick, because I think it's gonna continue to burn. As you can see in there, it's starting to eat away at these fine little fibers that are in there. Looks like it's already starting to go out. But either ways, there's still a risk of starting a fire, so you know, warning, do this at your own caution. Make sure that you have a fire extinguisher or some water nearby so that you can douse this thing. Also, get it up off of your concrete. I'm using an old reclaimed pallet to make this happen. But I'm gonna go ahead and set up the time lapse, and I'll show you guys what I learned after the fact. All right, guys, let's go ahead and show you this. So this is the very first pass of the bottom side of the board. This is red oak, and this is going to be the shou-sugi-ban type of approach to treating this wood. So what you can do now is, you know, if you're looking over here, you can see that some of these spots were done really well. Some of these, you can see that they weren't done, you know, very well at all. So this spot right here definitely needs a little more, but it goes to show you get better with experience, right? So if you look at this one over here, you see that it starts getting a lot more even, right? So now what you can do, except for that little spot right there. So now what you can do is you can go in there with a wire brush, very simple, and you can go with the grain and basically get a lot of this, this soot off of there, because you're gonna be handling this, right? If you don't feel like staining it and whatnot. One thing that you will notice is that this is gonna be a little dirty, and you wanna take care of this before you get into your house. And then also, highly recommend leaving this thing outside for 24 hours, keeping an eye on it, and then making sure that, you know, whenever you do get in the house, there aren't some small little embers and they're still burning. So this, obviously, I told you guys in the very beginning that I should have taken the epoxy approach and then filled up all these knots whenever it's a little rotted. So that's definitely a good idea, because all this stuff catches fire really easily, and this is gonna burn for a long time. And the reason why I don't wanna douse water over the top of it is because whenever something's super hot, super cold, it's gonna warp it. So this was flat planed, right? it was put in the mill and flat planed, and then I sanded it. So it should be as straight as possible right now. But obviously, you know, heating this stuff up, it's going to make it crinkle and crack, and then differences in temperatures. So obviously it's probably going to be not 100% straight whenever it's all said and done, but it kind of just goes to show, you know, you get what you get. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit it with this wire brush. I'm going to wipe it off real quick, and then I'm going to go ahead and start on the other sides, finish this thing up for you guys real quick. Hey, so real quick, I just wanted to show you guys, here is a completely charred part, right? There's a lot of different philosophies in which you can dictate your finish. You can go super alligator skin, you can go, you know, a little bit less char, and then what you can do is you can just leave this, or you can use the wire brush, right? So watch this. Now you can see that there's a difference in between, you can actually see the wood. So if you want the super cool sheen on it, which is a little bit shiny, you can leave that. Do a little better job of the wire brush right here. See? So it knocks off all those shiny edges, right? And you're in charge of this. You can leave those imperfections in there if you want to. It basically just works on how much you want to char, how much shine you want. And most people aren't just going to leave it like this. They're probably going to put a finish on it, like a poly. But even then, poly is shiny, so you can definitely just dictate how crazy you want to go with this. You know, obviously I didn't fill up the knots and the rotten parts over here, the rotted parts, and then I did a light char on there. And then now what I'm talking about is you can dictate your finish on how much you wanted this shiny stuff to knock off. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this shiny on the edges, and I'm going to have this. See how that? I'm going to have this just a little less, well, I guess it's gonna be more of a matte finish. So I think whenever it's all done, it's gonna look really nice, but this is still ashy over here, but we're getting there, guys. Just wanted to show you this part. Obviously, you're in control of your own destiny, however far you wanna go with it. That's basically why I wanted to pop in here and let you guys know this is what I'm doing. You guys can do it more, you guys can do it less. All right, guys, let's go ahead and show you the finished product. This is the red oak live edge board that I went ahead and did the shou-sugi-ban treatment on. Obviously the camera's picking up more stuff. I'm looking at the plank and I'm also looking at the camera, but all I'd have to do is just knock off those shiny edges, and then it's not going to be splotchy. Like, it doesn't look splotchy in person, but it's just over accentuated on the camera. And then also I just wiped it down with water. Obviously it'd be better to have compressed air. It would get rid of all of the different little particles, the soot as it would be, and you are going to get dirty AF, so just keep that in mind. So down here I went ahead and fashioned the center speaker stand. So this is just Brooklyn pipe. It just takes time. Like, it probably took me a good 30 minutes to put all this stuff together. Just use fulcrums. It's real easy. But besides that, this is the overall vibe that I was going for. I wanted something short, I wanted something industrial looking, and, you know, this is basically it. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna flip the board over face down, and then I'm going to screw in with some screws, because the top of this, let me just show you real quick. So the top of this has these little holes so that you can go ahead and put some screws in there into the wood, and you're going to be fine in that regard. But yeah, that's basically the whole idea behind today's video. I wanted to show you guys a quick woodworking type of tutorial. I don't do this stuff very often, so I'm not a pro. Obviously, you know, I just checked out a couple videos on YouTube, obviously, and now I'm a master at this. And so can you guys be, but legitimately I'm no pro woodworker. Like, I don't do this stuff very often, so I'm probably gonna see tons of criticisms down in the comments, but who cares, man? Go out there and create something. That's all I got for you guys on this video. Make sure you like, favorite, share, and subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one.